Welcome to the Registration Procedures presentation. You have been selected to view this presentation as a school-based employee designated to handle and/or assist with registration and enrollment on your campus. On February 26, 2013, an agreement between the U.S. Department of Justice and the School District of Palm Beach County was signed into effect. Overall, the Department of Justice agreement addresses two major components: registration and enrollment, and administration of student discipline. For the purpose of this training, we will be reviewing the requirements for registration and enrollment. As an employee involved in registration procedures at your school, this presentation will review the important aspects of the policy as well as the appropriate practices involving registration procedures. The Department of Justice agreement requires the school district to fully comply with its policy regarding registration and enrollment. Any employee involved in registration procedures at a school site must participate in annual training to be compliant in the content and processes of registration and enrollment. The Palm Beach County School Board adopted Policy 5.011, titled Student Residence Enrollment Requirements, on June 6, 2012, in an effort to outline appropriate practices involving student registration and enrollment. Important requirements of the policy are: the school district is prohibited from placing barriers to enrollment on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, language, immigration, or homeless status. The school district is required to provide timely translation and/or interpretation during registration, and the school district is required to provide training to all employees responsible for implementing Policy 5.011. When students are initially enrolled in school, proof of address must be provided in two forms: post office boxes, private mailbox addresses, or commercial establishment addresses are insufficient. Consistent with federal law, it is important to note that school personnel are strictly prohibited from requesting or requiring documentation of the immigration status of students and families. In addition, students should not be delayed enrollment or withdrawn from school due to lack of appropriate documentation or proof of address. Any student experiencing or suspected of experiencing homelessness should be immediately enrolled regardless of adequate documentation. Examples of acceptable documentation for proof of address include home telephone or cellular telephone bill, a current electric, water, or other utility bill, rent receipt with the name of the tenant and landlord and contact information for all parties, lease agreement with name of tenant and landlord and contact information for all parties, valid only through the expiration date indicated on the agreement. Upon expiration, parents must present a copy of the renewed or new agreement to the school office. Mortgage statement or home purchase contract including specific closing date with copy of the deed to be provided within 30 days of closing date. State of Florida driver's license or identification card. While this is an acceptable form of documentation, school staff are prohibited from requesting or requiring a driver's license as proof of address. Current automobile insurance policy. Credit card statement issued within 35 days with financial information and account number redacted. United States Postal Service confirmation of address change or any evidence of correspondence, including a stamped addressed, postmarked envelope delivered to the home address, or declaration of domicile form from the County Records Department. It is important to note that passports are another acceptable form of documentation for parent identification and/or to verify a student's date of birth. Should a parent provide a passport at any time during the registration process, please understand that passports may not be photocopied. School District Policy 5.011 prohibits schools from denying access to families who are unable to provide two documents of proof of address due to extenuating or hardship circumstances. If a family is unable to provide two documents, an affidavit of residence form number 1866 shall be completed by the parent. The form is available in English, Spanish, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, Chinese Mandarin, French, Arabic, and Vietnamese, and must be signed by the owner or leasing agent of the residence. The form will also require notarization. Families requesting a notary for required registration forms should be provided this service free of charge. All extenuating or hardship circumstances, including situations where there is reasonable suspicion that a student is not residing within the school's attendance zones, shall be reviewed by the principal or designee. In these situations, a student must be admitted to school immediately. Once a student is enrolled in the school, the principal or designee shall notify the regional office for further direction or investigation. If it is determined that a student is attending the incorrect school, this information, as well as the process to appeal, must be shared in writing with the parent in a language they understand. Please understand that during this entire time, the student shall remain in school. Let's take a moment to review the school district's website and explain how to access forms helpful to schools and families during the registration process. At the top of the home page, under District Links, click Enroll Register. Here, school personnel can access all related registration information. Located at the top of the page, the district-approved registration checklist is available in 8 languages: English, Spanish, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, Chinese Mandarin, French, Arabic, and Vietnamese. At the bottom of the page, clicking student registration information for school personnel will provide schools access to all forms related to registration. Under the Student Registration Information for School Personnel page, schools will find the registration documents in English, Spanish, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, Chinese Mandarin, French, Arabic, and Vietnamese. Schools will also find a registration checklist for schools, rules of registration at a glance, a reference guide for accessing Language Line, and directions for Transact. It is recommended that schools have the Transact Language ID chart and the Welcome to Our School sign posted in the main office or registration area to make it more welcoming for parents and students. In an effort to make registration and enrollment accessible to all families, the district must provide non-English speaking parents equal access to the same information in which English-speaking parents are provided. To comply with this, translation and interpretation services involving registration and enrollment must be provided by qualified school-based personnel, such as CLFs and bilingual school counselors, who are fluent in both English and the language he or she is communicating, have demonstrated the ability to interpret in the given situation, and have also been trained in confidentiality and technical vocabulary. Schools will need to maintain a list of bilingual staff available for communicating with parents. In addition, centralized translation and interpretation services at the district level are available for schools without qualified bilingual staff, as well as outside agencies contracted with the Department of Multicultural Education for those languages less frequently spoken in the district. I'll refer to those resources later in the presentation. It is important to note that registration and enrollment may not be delayed due to the need for translation. Schools need to maintain a list of bilingual staff available for communicating with parents. In addition to English, the school district's major languages for written communication are Spanish, Haitian Creole, and Portuguese. The Department of Justice agreement requires the school district to provide translated documents, forms, and communication regarding registration in every major language in the district. Registration documents are also available in Chinese Mandarin, French, Arabic, and Vietnamese. It is important for schools to have each of the translated forms prepared in advance to assist families with the registration process. Parent information disseminated by schools regarding registration and/or student discipline, including but not limited to dress codes, tardy policies, field trips, and honor roll, will need to be translated into the school district's identified major languages. In addition to English, Spanish, Haitian Creole, and Portuguese, the district also recognizes Konghaval and Mam as major languages for the purposes of verbal communication. Parents requesting verbal communication in these languages must be provided oral interpretation of documents, forms, or other communication regarding registration and enrollment. This communication must be conducted by a qualified interpreter or service provider approved by the school district. As a result of the Department of Justice agreement requirements requiring translation and interpretation, the school district made revisions to the registration form to include information pertaining to verbal and written communication with parents. It is essential that accurate language information is collected for each question. The programmatic assessment and academic placement review must be completed for any potential second semester kindergarten through grade 12 student in Palm Beach County that has at least one yes marked on their home language survey. The form is to be completed upon initial registration or after returning to Palm Beach County after a year or more. The form is required as a basis for determining a student's prior educational experiences and academic subject competencies to allow for appropriate academic placement and/or course scheduling to be made. It serves as documentation of the steps taken to determine appropriate academic placement, independent of the student's English language proficiency. This form is to be completed by trained school personnel through an interview with the student and/or parent or guardian at the time of registration. The staff member who reviews the packet must follow these steps upon receiving the registration from the parent or guardian. Number 1, review the home language survey. Number 2, if one or more yeses are marked, use Form 1764. Number 3, ask the parent questions 1 through 5 in their preferred oral language. If there is no translator available at the school, refer to the language line. Number 4, staff member documents the responses from the parent on the form. The staff member gives a completed form to the school's ESOL coordinator or contact for review and completion. No parent should complete this form on their own. It is designed as an interview between the school staff member and the parent or guardian. For any other questions regarding the programmatic assessment, contact your regional ESOL coordinator. Information collected from registration forms on parent-preferred languages will be entered by school staff and SIS, allowing each school access to it in a report format. Awareness of parents' preferred language, both verbal and written, is essential for effective and comprehensible communication to occur. The SIS advanced reporting options will allow schools to have access to the parent-preferred language and to provide or distribute communication effectively and comprehensively. It can be accessed through SIS by following the pathway listed at the top of the screen: Students, Reports, Advanced Report. Use the Available Fields option to identify the information you would like to include in the report. For example, you may include student last name, first name, parent language, student language, preferred oral language, and preferred written language fields in your report. Once you have downloaded the report, parent language information is available to the school staff. The district is committed to facilitating an effective means of communication for students and parents who speak a language other than English through professional translation or written and interpretation or verbal services. The Department of Multicultural Education offers schools translation and interpretation resources to assist in meeting the needs of multilingual families. Transact is an online database of pre-translated general education documents in 21 languages available to all school staff and district employees. Transact can be accessed by logging into www.transact.com. These translated documents may serve as a supplement to aid communication to parents in less frequently spoken languages. Language Line, an over-the-phone interpretation service that provides accurate first-person interpretations, is also available to facilitate oral communication with families who speak languages less frequently spoken in our district. This interpretation service can be requested by submitting Form 1944. The Department of Multicultural Education also provides district-level in-house language assistance in our most frequently spoken languages. Our district staff provide high-quality and timely personal language services. These services can be requested by submitting Form 1944 for interpretations. You can also submit Form 1509 for document translations. For additional information on these services, please contact Sandra Arroyo at sandra.medrano-arroyo@palmbeachschools.org or call Department of Multicultural Education at 434-8620. This concludes the registration procedures presentation.